Welcome, welcome, welcome to the greatest show on earth. If I could get my camera. This is Reckless Speculation. An hour early, maybe. But school started, so we'll be trying to bring you this just a little bit earlier. Not that any of us are in school, but we do have children in school. Thank you for joining us. Smash the like button, smash the follow button. We are your social media dynamite. Below me, joining us every week, the Ohio State fan, the fan. If you're an Ohio State can you use the in your introduction? It is the Brandon Chang.
Thank you. Yeah, it is a word that we have copyrighted, I guess, or coined. So, welcome. Glad to be here. I'm excited to talk about some football, boys. Finally, it's right around the corner, and man, can't wait.
You know, about once a year, I have a snap moment when I'm formatting the show, and I just go, okay, we're talking about football. I don't care what anybody else wants to talk about. I'm talking about football tonight. Above Robbie Davis, to that way of me, one of this direction, he's joining us from the great state of Michigan. He is rather Detroitish. I don't know what that means, folks. His name is Tom Sloan, and he is the newest member of Reckless Speculation.
Hey, boys, what's happening? And to define Detroitish, you meet anybody around the world that they say, where are you from? People just say, hey, I'm from Detroit, So Detroitish is within an hour of the city, I would say, and that fits me really well. So I am Detroitish through and through.
When I lived in California, and Robbie Davis can comment on this, nobody knew there was any city in Tennessee except Nashville. So whenever anybody asked me if I was from Tennessee, the first words out of their mouth is, man, I like Nashville. But below Tom, the man, the myth, the legend, the NASCAR expert that Tom actually got to pick right, not Robbie. Just a little point of preference there. He is Robbie Davis.
The other part of living on the West Coast, people would say, oh, I've never been to Tennessee. I've been to Memphis, though.
I do say that.
But yes. So it's bittersweet. Year football's right around the corner, and this is also where NASCAR goes to die. They race on Sunday. They should move to Tuesday, but I'll get my calendar talk later.
It's also where Major League Baseball drops off the face of the earth, and then it's in October for the playoffs. So I'm with you. A couple of announcements to make. One, if you are in the Chattanooga area, which two of us are, Raj, when he joins us, will make it three. Tomorrow night at the Finley Stadium. Well, actually starting tomorrow night, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday is the Best of Preps high school football jamboree. 29 teams from all the local area, including driving down from the Murfreesboro, probably the best public school team in the state, Murfreesboro Riverdale. I will be Friday night over in Sequatchie Valley at the Sequatchie Valley Jamboree. We have Cowache County, Bledsoe County, Whitwell, Grundy County, and Warren County and Ray County coming in. It's a little mix there. We have everybody from a 1A team in Whitwell to a 5A team in Ray County coming in for that jamboree, and it's some good team. We have the defending 1A state champion, South Pittsburgh, in that jamboree. Ray County, I believe, last year made it to the quarterfinals in 5A football. Bledsoe County had their best run in a while. So if you want to see some football this weekend, get out. We've got jamborees going all over the area. Support these kids, man. They do a lot. It's a lot. I know Brandon played high school football, and it's a special thing, Brandon, on Friday nights, isn't it?
It is, man. I still go back to those stories occasionally, talking old football buddies and stuff. So, yeah, it's a very special time. Enjoy it. And, we had a good support system where I'm from. So, definitely helps out the kids.
We want to make it special. So, Tonight, though, our subject is college football season. I mean, we wait for this. We've been basically sitting in idle since the end of January when the Georgia Bulldogs beat the Alabama Crimson Tide for the national championship. And we got the coaches poll out this week, and we'll get into that in a minute. But I want to talk about contenders for the national championship. We're going to start there a little bit. I believe they are 3 legit contenders that no matter what list you make, no matter what statement you make, you have those 3 teams on your list. And those is what I called in my playoffs or it's a failure. And I believe those 3 teams are the Georgia Bulldogs, the Alabama Crimson Tide, and the Ohio State Buckeyes. Tom, starting with you, when you hear that list, in Ohio State for the last several years, as you know, Michigan made it last year, but you start with Ohio State at the top of your list in the Big Ten, do you not?
You have to. Just watching what they did to Utah offensively in the Rose Bowl game, it just seems like Stroud just put the ball up, and Jigba Smith and Brandon, who's the guy on the other side, the other receiver, the young guy. Can't think of his name off the top of my head.
Smith and Jigma. No, Olave's gone.
It's Harrison. Harrison Jr.
Oh, yeah. Marvin Harrison Jr.
Marvin Harrison Jr. It just seemed like they were just playing pitch and catch the whole second half of that game. So you have to, looking at how much Michigan lost on the defensive side of the ball, as a Michigan fan, that concerns me. Although I've heard a lot coming out of camp that they're pretty fast and pretty strong on that D line, but that remains to be seen. But ultimately, yeah, I mean, Ohio State every year is going to be the top of the class. But especially this year because you got Stroud, that's going to be a Heisman candidate, and the 2 best receivers we've probably seen. Maybe in the last 10 or 15 years. So it's pretty safe to say coming out of the Big Ten, Ohio State is 1, and then the field is the rest of the way. So,
Robbie Davis, I thought looking at this list, Alabama, of course, number 1 team in the country. Even though Georgia's a defending national champion, I still think they get a spot, but it's a little bit of rebuild for Georgia to get that number 3 spot.
Look, as crazy as it sounds, what Nick Saban said recently was true. That was an Alabama rebuild, and they almost won the national championship. Georgia's in that same boat now. Look, I don't know if you can parlay this, but right now I'd take a Georgia-Alabama playoff parlay. I think they're both getting in, and I think it's kind of almost irrelevant if they're undefeated, 1 loss, 2 loss. Like looking at these next tier teams, and I think Tom, you may have texted earlier that spread where it was like those 3 teams minus 360 or something in the field plus. Like that's insane for a football season.
It is.
But at the same time, I'd bet the minus 360 if I was betting. These 3 programs are so far ahead of everyone else. Clemson ranked 4th. So this is what I'm interested in. Clemson kind of reminded me of like a very shorter, much shorter of that Florida State window when Bobby Bowden had Mickey Andrews and Mark Richt, and they ran 14 years in a row of top 5. Then Mickey Andrews retired. Mark Richt left to Georgia, and things started falling apart. Dabo doesn't seem to be adapting to this NIL, this transfer portal. I don't think Clemson finishes anywhere in the top, close to the top 4 this year.
We'll get to the next group. Brandon Chain, go ahead.
No, we'll get there. I was going to start elaborating on that, but we'll wait.
Well, I want to challenge you as an Ohio State fan, and nobody point blank got an Alabama question. I'm going to pick when we get to our pick show. I'm probably going to pick Ohio State. But it truly is running Alabama down every single year now. They're in the playoffs no matter what.
It is. For the last, I guess pretty much under Saban's reign, we always feel like we're contenders and we're in there, but we're just a little bit behind, and sometimes a lot behind. But starting out the season, you like to think that's your benchmark. That's where you need to be, trying to follow that and beat that team. But and the Big Ten has gotten a little better over the last couple seasons, so we'll see how that goes. But with that saying, Ohio State's also improved. So I'm excited for the season, and I think they're definitely in the top three. I'd take that minus 360 all day for those three teams to be in the playoffs, especially playing Michigan this year in the shoe.
We've got a Georgia alumni on here. I think I know who that is. And notice the question. I'm so excited. Football's finally here. It's easier to be excited when you're defending national champion. I'll give you that. All right, let's go around the horn real fast. And I'm going to throw this out to all three of you. I think we all agree those are the three best teams. We'll start and revert backwards. Brendan, if you were just ranking those three teams, how would you rank them?
Preseason rankings?
Preseason, today.
Today, I'd go Georgia, Bama, Ohio State.
Robbie Davis.
Alabama, Ohio State, and Georgia. Georgia lost a whole NFL defense. Like there's gonna be some at least learning how to play together kind of step back. Now, I think they'll still win the East. I think they'll still go undefeated to Atlanta. But I think Ohio State's going to be a little better out the gate.
All right. A lot of comments coming in. Our buddy JP joining. Our Facebook user, Robbie, talking to you. There's a Georgia fan out there, alumni, knows who you are. They're talking about gambling and Georgia football. It could be that many of them.
Hey, tell him, give me the points and I'll lay it down for 100.
All right. All right. Yeah, Georgia has a secret weapon. Points, $100, man. Facebook user, points and $100. Davis. Tom, if you were going to rank those three teams, where would you rank them right now?
Yeah, right now Alabama 1, Ohio State 2, and I guess out of those three, Georgia. But to me, I think there's a sleeper team in that mix that doesn't seem to be getting the credit that I feel they deserve, and it's Utah. But that might be on the next segment.
It is. It's Sam. Sorry, Sam. I didn't mean to say he. It's Robbie. It's Sam. Her. So.
Oh, I will definitely. Yeah, she knows where to find me. She can. I'll take the points for 100.
All right. If I was going to rank them today, I think I rank them. Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia. But then again, if I had a vote, I think Alabama gets my vote till we prove it otherwise. So I think everybody's there and in the same group. But let's get to that next group. The next group I think we're the number 4 team. So these teams, I feel like they think they would be the number 4 team no matter what. In that group, I placed the aforesaid Utah Utes, who I think, when I get my 4th team, may be the 4th team. I also placed Michigan in that group. Oh, Notre Dame, Texas A&M, and Oklahoma. That's a pretty big group. Let me give it again. Clemson, Notre Dame, Michigan, Texas A&M, Utah, Notre Dame. That is basically the bottom 10 of our top 10 that's out right now. If you're going to take one of those teams or any other team and insert them, into your top 10 or your top 4, who would you start with? We'll go north of the border since our boy Rich Jasper is commenting all of a sudden. And we'll start with his Speakeasy 330 brother. Who's your 14? It seems like it was going to be the youth.
Yeah, I mean, the coaches poll has Clemson, and I don't see anywhere that they've proven anything that they deserve to be ranked that high. So I scratched them. So for me, it would be Utah, Texas A&M. I'm not sold on Michigan, and I'm a Michigan fan, as everyone knows, but I'm very critical of them losing what they've lost on defense. But then again, they've gained a lot on offense, so it'll be interesting in that regard. It would be Utah, Texas A&M, Notre Dame, Michigan, probably in that order.
Our boy JP, and I really think he's got a point here, and I'll get to it. It's almost what I'm going to say about Oklahoma. Venables' first time as a head coach lost their quarterback. Oklahoma, to me, the shakiest of that group. I kind of agree with JP there. All right, Robbie, your contenders for the 4th spot, guaranteed 4th spot. I'm going to win. We had Rods for a minute, and he's gone. Who do you got?
So Utah has the opportunity to make the biggest splash week 1. Although it's not necessarily a quality win, we're coming to the Southeastern Conference in August, and we can beat Florida. It's just a signature win, whether Florida's gonna be good or not. It's a big win. That will help Utah, and then the people in front of Utah, as it stands now, are gonna play each other and they're gonna start losing. So if it's a NASCAR analogy, I don't mind Utah's starting position right now because they can keep winning and keep moving up and score a win over USC, score a win over Oregon. They can move up. I just don't buy Clemson. Notre Dame's got not only a first-year head coach at Notre Dame, a first-year head coach anywhere. And so there's going to be growing pains. I think Harbaugh, look, man, he was in and out of his career choice. Like, he's there now, but I don't know about him. Like, he's never been a real college success story at Michigan. And then Clemson, Notre Dame, or A&M, they've got Jimbo bit off a big piece of steak that he's going to have to swallow going to Tuscaloosa. And I think that's going to be an embarrassment. And then the SEC West is so tough. So I'm with Tom. If I'm looking at this, I like Utah.
I'm with you. Let me make a comment here. I saw myself or RiverCity Media commenting, said, "What up, you all?" And then I was like, "How am I commenting?" Then I realized, let's go Mountaineers. Let's go drink some beers, eat shit, PITT. Our boy Chappie is in the RiverCity room. Without a doubt, that is. Welcome, Chappie. Glad to have you here. Brandon Jane, Rod, just to bring you up to date, we've got Georgia, Alabama, and Ohio State in the playoffs, and we're trying to find our 4th team. Our 4th team we're talking about is going to come from several groups. The first logical group is what we're calling. We think we're number 4 no matter what, and that is Clemson, Notre Dame, Michigan, Texas A&M, Utah, and Oklahoma. Brandon Chain, who do you have of that group?
I'm with these guys. I'd love to have a little bit of a debate here and be different, but it's not in the cards. I mean, Utah, they're probably going to win the Pac-12. The only other 2 teams that can combat, I would say, would be Oregon and USC. I'd like to see Oregon. They're kind of out. Jury's still out on them with, Dan Lanning comes from Georgia. I think their defense definitely takes a step up because of that. But we'll see. My favorite is definitely Utah for the 4th position. I like after that probably A&M and then Michigan. I am not a Clemson or Notre Dame believer. They are on the pretenders list for me. Notre Dame, I love Marcus Freeman. He was an Ohio State guy, first-year coach. He's a player's coach. The players rally behind him, get behind him, but can he really coach? That's yet to be seen. And because of that, I'll have to defer to the experience on some of these other teams. So, and Clemson is just, I think, one last grip from a free fall right now, especially with all the super conferences going on and the whole ACC TV deal. So I don't see those teams. I think they're just overrated preseason because of who they are and what kind of market they bring. But as far as on the field football, I don't see them being any contention this year.
And Venables leaving Clemson to go to Oklahoma, what is that going to do for their defense?
Yeah, exactly.
He was a hell of a motivator defensively. So I think that's
totally
going to be a huge loss that really no one's talking about.
Let's get caught up on comments, and we'll come up to our boy Raj for the final word of this group. Of course, Rich Jasper, Tom Sloan, I like your, shot back at our boy Rich Jasper. He loves John Cooper. Our boy Chappie says, sorry about that word. He should have said PITT eats fecal matter. Sam, our friend says, she's with Utah. And, of course, JP just put in 4 SEC teams. They run the playoffs every year. And, again, our boy Chappie, he misses us. Chappie always got a home here.
You got 3 SEC teams in the top 7.
I'm going to throw this out when I get to my time. We're JP.
No chance, Chappie. Sorry, buddy. We're like 17.5-point favorites. Not happening.
Raj Mehta, where you at? Who's your number 4?
Well, first of all, in Chappie's defense, you went full Cale Gundy and repeated the word that you should not have said. And that's on you unless one of us fires you as a scapegoat, but that's neither here nor there. I always think my boy Chappie's back. Pat Narduzzi is a huge wiener. And I watched Slovis a ton, obviously, from USC. And he's going to die back there. And I hope in the backyard, barnyard, couch lighting brawl that West Virginia kills them. Although I know we're talking about hot seats, talk about a coach that better be watching his rear. It's Utah. I mean, I'm not pro-Pac, trust me. The reality of our conference is not good, but Utah's pretty loaded. They got a great quarterback coming back, a great college quarterback in Rising, just an amazing running back. Their secondary with Clark Phillips, or is it Joseph? Clark Phillips. They return almost everyone. They lost a lot of strength up front in their front 7, including Devin Lloyd.
That's a fancy painting behind you.
Oh, you mean that one?
Yeah, look at that.
It's got a story, but let me finish, please.
There's some people got more money than they do class on here. I'm just going to say that.
Actually, in my, I guess I'll get to the story, conservative redneck neighborhood page that I laugh at all the time because somebody complaining about a dog or somebody leaving out their recycling can for too long. I was in California and somebody had put this on the site as free. And I was like, obviously feeling good. And I was like, holy Randall, I want that badly. So my neighbor went over and picked it up for me. Totally forgot about it. Got back late Sunday, Monday. And he brought it over. And the frame itself is legit. The picture, it's super creepy. You can't really see Napoleon's hand. He sort of looks like a pedo, but I don't want to go down that route. It also is like one of those eyes from like an old timey like show or movie that followed like Clue.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty stoked on it. Conversely, my wife is not stoked on it at all, but it'll go in my office or somewhere.
This is when they're on the witness stand and you ask, "What was my question?"
That's what I ask myself every time Randall presents a topic. But anyway, no, I do remember the question, and it's Utah.
Hold on. This is good not to have. Sam's reply to your comment. I guess I'll finish now. Let me finish, please, is what she said.
Oh, I wouldn't know. I've been married for 10 years, so. But yeah, it's Utah just because they're loaded. Whittingham gets the most out of the least, and their schedule's simple. I hate to say that. At Florida will be a challenge. By the way, there's so many great non-conference games this year.
Week 1's gonna be awesome.
I mean, they're
still 2.5-point favorites, though.
Sandy. I feel like Utah plays every game at home, and Rice Eccles, whether people know it or not, is a nightmare stadium.
Yeah.
Almost every game's at night. So San Diego State's going to be a tough one. But when you look at their schedule, I mean, their hardest game is either at UCLA or at Washington State. When they're at home, they're better than USC top to bottom. They do play at Oregon, but as long as Bo Nix is there, if he's still alive and being the quarterback, I'll take Utah all day. I think they're smarting from last year, and I think they're definitely in the best position.
All right, guys, we heard it a minute ago.
How about that? Unanimous, all of us thinking Utah.
Boy, you Pac-12 homers. Or
They're good.
I'm going to throw a little wrench into our SEC gets 2 teams in. I think Texas A&M can get in a scenario where they lose to Alabama or Alabama loses to them early in the year, and then either Alabama or Texas A&M ends up winning the SEC. And Georgia, of course, would have to lose at least 2 games on the other side. But I really like Texas A&M, even if they lose to the Bama, to still have a shot to get in because Georgia would have to lost 1 in the regular season, and then of course lose the SEC title game.
Well, let me ask you this:
Georgia won a championship. They're overinflated every year, and this is another year to me.
Randall, in your scenario, though, let's say Alabama beats them at home.
Schedule is easy.
Then A&M gets 1 loss. Alabama goes to the SEC championship. They lose undefeated. They lose to Georgia undefeated. Do you think all 3 get in?
I don't know that. That would be tough. That would be tough, but that's tough only because to me that's going to, if you get 3 SEC teams in, that's the moment that people start yelling to raise it to 8 teams.
Yeah. They're yelling that already.
A&M's got a super favorable schedule, as Randall noted.
Yeah.
At Alabama is forget about it, but everything else.
But let me tell you, I think Georgia does struggle, even though I have them in our top 3 in this. Georgia is replacing, as Robbie said, a complete NFL defense. So we'll see. Next group in the poll, not Randall's, because there's one of these teams I think is Randall's flop team. Chappie comes up. Bo Nix has been in college football for 20 years. Chappie, you are right.
And he's still
the next group into the poll is Baylor, a team that I do love now. Oklahoma State, another team that I love out of that Big 12. And then the ranked over USC, which will get USC in the next group, was Oregon. Is Oregon – we'll start with our Pac-12 guy. Should Oregon be ranked higher than SC, and are they in the next group? And could any of those 3 get in, Raj?
I know this is a show that requires opinions. My answer to both, if we weren't on a show, is I don't care because it's preseason. Again, if Bo Nix is the quarterback, then no, they're in trouble. People forget that they lost Travis Dye, who had
transferred to USC.
30 touchdowns with Oregon. They lost Michael Pittman, who helped me win another fantasy championships. Brother, he transferred. Defensively, they are strong with Noah Sewell, Penei Sewell, the offensive tackle, and Detroit's brother. He's amazing. Justin Flo looks like an action figure. He's a monster, a California guy that was a real crap burger for SC, but he gets hurt all the time. They have team speed. They have defense. I don't see it there. I think Dan Lanning struggles as well. This isn't Georgia. I mean, I could probably get a head coaching job if I coached that defense last year.
Yeah.
So no on them. As for USC, I know we're going to get into them later, so I'll stay off of them. But I mean, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Finish your point. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No. Oh, that's a first. Usually it's the other way around. No, I like Baylor as well. You know, obviously an extremely well-coached team. The kids love Aranda. I mean, he's getting transfers from LSU, which obviously there's a history there, but when did you think that would ever happen? Sorry, go ahead. Exactly. It's a 12-win team last year in a conference that is winnable with what I believe is a fairly favorable schedule. So Baylor, oddly enough, and Oklahoma State, even though their schedule is not super fun, I think they're both going to be very, very strong in the Big 12.
All right, Tom, I was coming to you. And in between Raj and JP, they said everything I had to say about Baylor, but that's where I was going. I don't know that Baylor isn't a favorite in the Big 12 over Oklahoma. And Oklahoma State is right. To me, if I was picking the Big 12, it would be Baylor, Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, not the other way around. Do you think Baylor of that group has the best shot?
I do. And just like Rod said, Dave Aranda just finds ways to get these kids motivated. And you take last season, for example, I don't think there was many expectations for Baylor. And toward the end of the season, they might have been, in the top 5 if they hadn't had a couple mess ups earlier in the season. But to me, it is Baylor. I'm not sure. I think it's close between Oklahoma State and Oklahoma. There's a big question mark with Oklahoma right now. You losing Caleb Williams to USC. That's going to be a tough one to replace. So Venables is going to have a tough job on his hand for that. But going back to what I said earlier, Will Venable is a great coach, and I think defensively, you're going to have a top 10 type of defense. Which is that going to be able to carry them in that division? It could be. So I would probably go with the Baylor, Oklahoma State, and 1, 2, 3.
I agree with you, Robbie Davis. Break that down. Same 3 teams.
I think these 3 teams have to be pulling for all 3 teams. Because, look, you're talking about – we all said Utah could be 4. If these 3 teams keep winning throughout the season, look, they're 9, 10, and 11 in the preseason coaches poll. As teams start losing, that's going to be – if someone runs the table, that's 2 top 10 wins in a – situation where I don't think that many teams are going to have that many top 10 teams. I tend to think out the gate, I like Baylor also. I just think they've been the consistent program. Well, so Oklahoma was consistent until they just switched coaches. Now it's inconsistency. It's as good as Coach Vegetables is. It's his first time trying a new team, and so
as head coach too.
Yeah, and so this is he's away from Clemson. It's different environment. So I like Baylor. Baylor though needs Oklahoma and Oklahoma State to win every game they have to win or should win.
Great point. To answer Chappie's question, then I'm coming to the chain. Texas did get a first place vote, and I'd love to know who placed that vote. And to Robbie's point, I think you made an excellent point there. And you could throw Texas in, who's in that 15 range. You've got a chance to have 3 quality wins at the end of the year. You've got to hope Texas is maybe 10-2. Oklahoma is a 10-2. Yeah. Oklahoma State's 11-1. And you're Baylor sitting there 12-0. You've got a great resume. Shane, what do you think of those teams?
Yeah, to reiterate what these guys said, I mean, That's the advantage of going last. You just, compliment all your peers here. Definitely Baylor. They look like the better team on paper and from what we've seen last year. I'd have to go probably Oklahoma State after that, and then Oklahoma. I'm not a vegetables fan, as most of you guys know. So he's a Wildcat, and we'll see how he does first year coaching. He's got his big boy pants on, little bigger college. I know Clemson was a big market, but being the face of the program like that is quite a lot of pressure. But yeah, just the consistency. I mean, until you've seen actual production in that form, I don't think you can put them ahead. But it's preseason, so we're all speculating here on reckless speculation. So, but yeah, I love Baylor for sure over these other two.
All right, Roger.
A reckless speculation would be Texas to win the Big 12. That would be reckless, but
that's true.
It's very true.
Next is Texas. We're going to talk about your Longhorns right now. You called it, buddy. Did you read your show notes?
Me?
Yeah. You're on top.
I'm pretty good with the segue. We'll just say that.
All right. Seriously, I put a group in the backside of the top 25, and I called these the teams. Seriously, if we can find magic dust, we can make the playoffs. Now, I think for all those teams but one, it needs a little magic dust. Those teams, Raj, we'll start with you, are North Carolina State, Michigan State, Texas, Pittsburgh, and your USC Trojans. And somebody from the Pac-12 would need besides Utah, would need the same thing. You would need Utah to go 10-2. You would need Oregon to go 10-2 and USC to run it. But I feel like Texas may be the best team out of that group. Maybe I'm wrong. Give us your thought.
It's tough when you got a kid that was anointed as, second coming and then couldn't even see the field at Ohio State.
Yes.
To suddenly go to a new team, new offense, and Quinn Ewers. Texas is an interesting story. By the way, that number one vote, a lot of people think it was Sark. I think it was Lincoln Riley, just with a final troll of Oklahoma. Just like, anything Texas recognition-wise makes Boomer Sooner quite the bummer. But Bijan Robinson's arguably the best player in the country overall, in my opinion. Just a monster. And one thing about Texas is they had third quarter leads, double digit, I think, against like three or four teams, including like their three big losses to OU, OSU, and Baylor. So to me, that's not only obviously the defense, but it's culture. Has the culture changed enough for them to be, unfortunately, as someone who's seen Sark firsthand, literally and figuratively, my answer is no. Another they're very USC-esque. A lot of pros across the board, but they don't come together, and USC's finally changing their culture, but Texas isn't, and Sark's not going to last long. NC State, to me, is the team to watch for. Obviously, in an easy conference overall. Devin Leary is an amazing quarterback. The 35 TDs, 5 picks last year, but he's just a leader. Their defense returns almost everyone, including Peyton Wilson, who's their stud linebacker. They gave up a lot of points in certain games, or some teams they don't match up well against, like Wake. But Wake sadly has lost Sam Hartman for unforeseen amount of time. So NC State's really the team that I could see coming out of that. Michigan State, I'm not sold for a number of reasons, including the top of the Big Ten.
Makes sense. Like it. Tom, you brought up Texas, and I've got Texas on this list. When we get to talking about coaches on the hot seat, I've got Steve Sarkisian on the hot seat. Is Texas realm of possibilities for this year 11-1 to 5-6 or 5-7?
It's very possible because, I mean, if you look at that top 10 or that top 15 with Baylor, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State right in the mix, I mean, they're going to have to play their A game every week. And Sarkisian really hasn't proven, we'll say, that he's a top-level coach. But, Texas reminds me a lot of Michigan, a lot of Tennessee, and they seem to stretch a lot. They seem to like overcoach or overcommit, and lately it hasn't really worked well for them. But for me, it's gonna take a miracle for Texas to be that team in the mix. Pittsburgh, I don't see that happening. And Raj, I agree with you on Michigan State. Are they being overhyped? Is this whole Tuck Cumming mantra that makes me want to vomit, to be honest with you? Sorry, my fellow Sparties here. I think they lost a lot in Kenny Walker. A big percentage of their offense ran through Kenny Walker.
Mm-hmm.
So how much of that is going to hurt Michigan State? I think defensively they're going to be all right, but you're taking a big chunk of that offense away with Kenny Walker, and I think a lot of people fail to realize that Mel Tucker hit gold, struck lightning in a bottle with Kenny Walker, and that doesn't happen very often. So, Texas, NC State probably in that group right now, if we're looking at it preseason wise. But USC, I mean, you can't deny on paper they've got with Caleb Williams, the receiver Raj that they got transferred. I can't think of his name. Addison. Yep.
And Mario Williams from OU.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, if they've brought in some pieces that would probably say, hey, they're gonna get to the mountaintop. But they got to play. How well they're going to gel. So I'll go NC State. I'll go USC and Michigan State in that 3 range out of that group.
Good breakdown there, Tom. Robbie Davis, was it you or Shane that just finished their drink? Because I was looking down and somebody had some ice situation going there.
I think that was Shane, but maybe it was me. But nonetheless, I will
Shane
talk.
drinks his stuff neat. Come on.
So to me, this is the easiest question of the night. Who of this range can get to the playoff? It's hands down Michigan State, because they have the most to gain. They play so Alabama loses one. It's going to be hard for USC, NC State, anyone to jump them. Georgia loses one. Ohio State loses one. It's going to be hard to jump them unless you play them head-to-head. Michigan State plays Ohio State head-to-head. So Michigan State plays at Washington. And then in a 3-week period, listen to these games. Ohio State at home. Wisconsin at home. At Michigan. You sweep those, you are leaping up the polls. And then a finale at Penn State. Those are high-profile games. They're going to be prime time. If you win all of those games, you can move all the way up. So even if they drop one to the away game at 3-8 Purdue, oh God, heaven forbid, the Big Ten. But
Purdue at a night game.
Yeah, it was a night game at 3-8 Purdue. Oh,
Shane knows about that.
Even if you lose that game, perhaps you can still make it up with that schedule. But no, Michigan State has the schedule to leapfrog teams that have been above them that even lose one. So they've got the schedule. USC doesn't have the schedule. NC State doesn't have the schedule. They even if they beat Clemson and Notre Dame, that's not as good as what Michigan State would run through.
Can cares if they have the
Michigan
schedule?
And not to mention, Michigan State has the power to conference behind it.
That's a massive conditional. Like if Alabama loses every game, Nick Saban could be deported. Like you're saying they have the schedule. Yeah, the opportunity presents itself, but
the question was which one of these teams can make it to
Well,
I
it's
mean,
magic
really,
fairy dust.
realistically,
I
none of
get
these
it.
teams are going to make
You're
it to the playoff. But which has the best
You're
chance
thinking
to
in terms
make
of analytics, but they're not good enough to win those games. So why always tempt anyone?
that's
The whole
damn
the whole
question.
premise is magic fairy dust.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Oh, I agree with that part.
I think
Magic
what Robbie's
fairy dust.
saying, is the
All right.
easiest path to that playoff schedule is Michigan State, and I totally agree with that. Now,
All right.
are they the best team that could potentially do it? No, I would have to say USC, NC State, and then Michigan State. But I totally agree. If they were to somehow get some magic fairy dust and beat Michigan and Ohio State, yeah, they win the Big Ten. They're in.
They got Wisconsin in between Ohio State and Michigan.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a mountain to climb in 3 weeks.
Sorry for
Yeah.
being logical. I didn't know.
Yeah,
about
so
the
if you
fairy
win,
dust
if you,
thing.
if
I guess
if they
that's the
sweep
Tennessee
that, they're-
fan mantra, right?
Hey, don't group me with them.
Hey, don't get your ass put on mute.
The question was, if
12-0,
everything
baby,
goes
every year.
right, who's going to get in? That's the question. It's not complicated.
All right,
Utah.
Let
The whole
me.
magic fairy dust thing is a premise that, I mean,
Yeah,
I'm gonna
everything
go
goes
with,
right. Do you understand? Do you understand what those words?
Central
mean?
Michigan. Central Michigan. They could run the
Fire
game.
up chips.
Let me go with the final wrap up on this subject. I'm going to say this. There's only one team. There's two teams I want to talk about. I am higher on Texas than anyone in the panel. I think Texas. I believe in Steve Sark more than most. I think he had great moments at Alabama. I think he had okay moments at USC. So I think Texas could get there. I think NC State could get there. I'm going to make a statement now, and I want you guys to hold me to this during football season. The worst contract in sports that's been given since the Cubs gave Jason Hayward $184 million was Michigan State giving Mel Tucker $90 million, and they're going to regret it because he's a 500 coach.
Wait,
Robbie,
before we get there, Randall, let me question your logic. How is Texas ever going to jump Alabama, who they're going to lose to by 30 in week 1?
They're not going to jump Alabama.
So Texas is not making the playoff.
I think if one of these teams can make a
Keep it
run,
close.
it's Texas. Just because, let me put it back at you this way. Who would the voters vote in? Who would be the media darling if Texas around there? It would be Texas. It's
Nope.
And USC.
Big Ten, SEC. Nope.
a team coming to the SEC from the Big 12.
Coming, not there. The SEC and the Big Ten don't get revenue with Texas being there yet.
I'll give you another
Guys, don't get it twisted. It is still a monetary game.
this prediction, and we'll wrap it up. Whoever wins the Big 12 makes the playoffs.
I'll throw 100 on that too.
I didn't say gambling. I said I made a prediction. And you gamblers, you need to get some help because not everything's a bet.
All right. So sorry. What was your question, Randall? Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, my question was, I really believe Michigan State's made a mistake with Mel Tucker. He was basically an offensive line coach at Georgia that couldn't get a job. Got a job at Colorado, stayed a year, jumped to Michigan State, had a 2 and 5 year, caught lightning in a bottle. And it wasn't just Walker that he got in the transfer. He cleaned up in the transfer portal that year, including a transfer from Tennessee that played middle linebacker, Tre'Davious Crouch, which was the number 1 player in the country a few years ago. He had lightning in the bottle last year. Let me see Mel Tucker do it again, and then I'll eat my words on here. But I just don't see it happening. So that's my
man. Look, whenever whenever Nick Saban hangs it up, we could have a 3-hour discussion on how much money he made coaches. That it's been a just check the box. Did you work for Nick Saban? Whatever. Okay, great. Here's $50 million, or in Mel Tucker's case, $100 million, $95 million. He had the combo. He worked for Kirby Smart and Nick. Oh yeah, here's the checkbook, and that's it.
Even Bill O'Brien's going to get a job, and that guy's the dumbest idiot ever.
I got to give a plug right here because he's commenting on the show, getting all over me about my Tucker comment. Patrick Noonan, Coach Pat of the OC Card Shop in Whittemore Lake, Michigan.
Heck yeah.
Online, the OC. Guys, I've took all my business to Coach Pat and George Jackson. Coach Pat may be a Michigan State fan. He can't help it, but we'll get over that part. His comment, come on, Q1. I don't see it, Coach Pat. I hope I'm wrong for your sake, but I just don't see it. But seriously, go to the Facebook group OC, or go to I believe it's now on the internet, the Off-Centered Card Shop. Coach Pat, if you can put that in the chat, I'll get it up here for everybody. But my local card shop is now in Michigan. That's how great these guys are. Tom, you know them very well.
Whitmore Lake's a nice place. I've been there, kind of in between both schools. Coach Pat's a smart man. Nice lake. And you know what happens at lakes in Michigan in the summer?
They have a 2
Actually, we can't talk about it. So
My boat's on that lake. I keep my boat right on Whitmore Lake. So
yeah, me too. I keep all 6 of my boats.
We have look, Coach Pat. I'm not going to be ordering the Mel Tucker signed helmet, but I'm waiting on the Chronicles to get in so I can order me some Chronicles. So when you get the new Chronicles in, I think you sold out before I got the first one. Give me a yell.
Are Chronicles legal in Michigan?
It is a card. Here it is.
Oh.
The Chronic is legal in Michigan. Yes.
Sweet.
www.theocsportscard.com. Go there. I believe in these guys. They're great to me. I mean, seriously, I do all my business there. And Tom Jott is on Lake Whittemore is what he says. So we'll go on from there.
Not a yacht, but Pat almost hit me while crossing the street going down to my boat a couple of weeks ago, which was good.
Boat drama. Only white people have boat drama.
Before we move on to the coaches, I want to take 5 minutes and let's talk about the top 25. And I'm just going to go run through the top 25. If you've got a comment, just stop me. If it takes us 10 minutes to get through the top 25, that's fine. If you hear a team that's overranked, underranked, call a timeout. Just timeout. Hey, Randall, I need a timeout. I want to make a comment. So we're going to call this timeout, coach, timeout. We're going to start at the coaches poll. At number 1, Alabama. At number 2, Ohio State. At number 3, Georgia. And I have a feeling my first comment will come in here. At number 4, in the coaches poll, preseason, the Clemson Tigers.
Timeout.
Yeah. Go ahead.
After the last 2 seasons they've had, the quarterback that I won't even attempt to pronounce his last name, Ingule, or whatever it is. And,
you did attempt it. You look at you.
It's been a disappointment, and losing Venables as DC is a lot. So I think that's a stretch. I'll leave it at that.
Number 5, Notre Dame.
Again, yeah. I mean,
Robbie, go ahead.
Both those teams should be around 10 to 12 range for me. Like Clemson, I mean, the ACC's weak, and Clemson didn't win it last year. Like, I see some weaknesses there. And the Notre Dame, yeah, I need to see them improve it before you put them at 5. A first-year coach at 5? Come on.
First ever coached a college football game with a top.
This is definitely timeout on the previous 2. Sorry, I was late, boys.
Yeah, I mean,
this is why I hate preseason rankings. This is the most BS, like,
gotta do is
public media BS that I've ever seen. Just because they have big markets or whatever, I don't get it. Look at the
You know
schedule.
what?
Look at the strength of schedule. It's awful. And when Ohio State waxes Notre Dame's butt the first week, like kick them down, and I bet they only drop like 2 or 3 places. Watch that, because Notre Dame will very rarely fall out of the top 10.
This just brought up a point, Brent. You may have brought up a point. No, the number one vote for Texas, Nick Saban voted for them just to get his team motivated. That's absolutely Nick Saban saying, "Oh yeah, Texas, they got a number one vote. They think they're better than us."
That's a good.
All right. Which teams are you replacing then Clemson and Notre Dame with? I'll give you 6 Michigan, 7 A&M, 8 Utah, 9 Oklahoma, 10 Baylor.
I'm gonna call a timeout on Michigan. I again, people are gonna question my fandom, but being a fan, I think we've all fell victim to preseason polls. It seems like Michigan gets a lot of attention because of who they are. This is Michigan, and I don't buy it. Losing what they've had on defense, and not to mention losing both offensive and defensive coordinators. Albeit I like who they've replaced them with, but
Hutchinson was awesome on Hard Knocks.
He was.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And losing that guy on your defense, it's a hard, replace there. So to put him at 6, really not knowing who's going to be the quarterback. Everybody in Michigan here wants JJ, but knowing the way Harbaugh operates, it's probably going to be Cade McNamara. So I think 6 is a little high. I'd like to see them more in the 11 and 12 range. And again, I'm a Michigan fan, but I think I'm a little bit more critical because of I'm being a fan and what I've seen in the past. And I don't have faith in Harbaugh. So
Fan is short for fanatic. Remember that.
Yeah.
Fans are not objective. And let's not forget Hassan Haskins, too.
Oh gosh,
They lost.
I think he just scored another touchdown against Ohio State.
Seriously. And like you said, those 2 defensive ends, I mean, good Lord. Like, that's why they beat Ohio State. You can't replace those dudes. They're generational.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We got out of A&M, Utah, OU, and Baylor. Who are you moving up?
Baylor.
Baylor? Anybody else?
No, I'd go Utah. I'd probably go Utah, Baylor instead.
Sorry, I didn't hear you say Utah. Yeah, Utah's my number.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's
absolutely.
Utah, Baylor over Notre Dame and Clemson for sure. They need to be at the bottom.
Who's going to be the
10.
quarterback? Who's the quarterback for Notre Dame too? He's going to come into a new situation, so that's a big question mark.
Yeah, I think.
Look, I don't remember. Sorry, can you guys remember a preseason ranking in the last decade that Notre Dame was not in the top 10?
I mean,
Decade? No, I guess Brian Kelly's been there that long. No,
I would move. I'd put A&M 4, and then Utah probably 5. Then Baylor, Michigan, maybe Notre Dame, Clemson around that range. But
If you'd like for the
they lost
official,
Kyron Williams too, another amazing back, just a monster who's on the Rams now. Notre Dame is going to, and Kyle Hamilton, even though Brandon Joseph, All-American safety from Northwestern, transferred there, and everybody loves Marcus Freeman. No, they've got to take a step back after last year.
I'll give you the official. I haven't released it on Marion Messenger yet, but my official top 25, the RiverCity Media poll that'll come out every Monday on the Marion Messenger has Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, Utah, A&M, Baylor, that order. That's my personal poll. That's nobody but mine.
I can get down with that.
Yeah. You can interchange those.
11, Oklahoma State. Number 12, Oregon. Number 13, North Carolina State. Number 14, Michigan State. And number 15, USC. Let's call a break right there. if Michigan State and USC or lined up on a football field right now today, who's the favorite, Tom?
It's USC. It's USC because I think they have more proven weapons. They have more guys that have that experience that have shown that they can play. USC might not have the defensive prowess that Michigan State might be able to bring, but in the college game, I mean, it's offense, really, if you look at it. With the exception of what Georgia did last year, but I think offensively, USC has more firepower.
Anybody else got a comment on that group?
Right now, today, before practice starts, I will take Michigan State over Clay Helton's USC Trojans.
Son of a- That's Napoleon for you right there. Robbie Bonaparte.
This is Napoleon.
Now, if Lincoln Riley starts running practice, maybe I'll change it. But right now, I'll take Michigan State.
He's got to get his private plane ready to go.
I got a big secret to tell everybody. Practice started 2 weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Randall, you're Geppetto here pulling the strings. I thought USC would be a topic, not maybe because it hasn't been a topic in decades, but obviously a lightning rod. They always make news, even when they stink. They get ratings. I was going to ask if our moderator is so inclined, other people's thoughts on what USC looks like. Their schedule's rough, but can they put it together? Because there's a lot of talent, at least in the starting lineups.
I'll go first because I actually did want to talk about this. I have a question about USC. One big question to me. This is not a football team that's ever took the football field together. This football team has been assembled since Lincoln Riley was put together, or Lincoln Riley got the job in LA. My question on USC with all the transfer portal is talent. Jordan Addison, I called the most important transfer in college football. Again, I'll say it. Jordan Addison, the Blitnikoff winner, was the most important transfer in college football for 2022. I understand Caleb Williams is going to have a better career, got eligibility, Quinn Ewers, but I don't know USC can play as a football team. Brendan Shane, do you understand what I'm getting at there?
Yeah, I do. I think USC could fly under. Everyone's all hyped on Utah this year, especially in that division, the Pac-12. I really like USC. They're probably, I don't know, their schedule. I don't know. Aside from potentially
young team, like Fresno State's a good team at Oregon State. They beat them last year at Utah.
Yeah,
we'll see. I mean, if it's Ohio State, they smoke everyone, but this isn't Ohio State,
right? And so they're kind of my second favorite here in the Pac-12 to win it if somehow Utah slips up or USC surprises some people. I like Oregon a little bit too. I mean, which of course those are always the top three. Don't discount Washington as well, but
USC doesn't play Oregon this year though.
I'm saying who could win that conference, but everyone's all on Utah, but USC could easily slide right in there. I mean, they do have a lot of firepower.
The most important game for USC in this season is Utah at Florida. Utah has to beat Florida because if they do not, then USC can run the schedule and it's not good enough to get into the playoff because you have at Oregon State, typically a tough game, but not in September. It needs to be in November when it gets colder. And then you have at Utah. And then at Arizona, you got Notre Dame at home. There's not going to be enough to jump the SEC and Big Ten. So Utah has to beat Florida for USC to have a chance.
I'm going to go ahead and I think the last I looked, I haven't looked in a while. Utah was like 2.5-point favorites in Florida.
They should smoke them.
I'm going to take Utah all day. I think it's a 10-point win, easy.
Side note for the benefit of our host, Grissom, the stud that the Braves just called up, just went yard over the monster in left, a 2-run homer scoring Michael Harris. It was beautiful. His first game up in the majors. So, yeah, always come back to baseball. It's pretty rad.
From Double-A.
Single A.
Double-A, top prospect.
Tom, you got anything to close us out on this USC topic?
Well, yeah, I mean, kind of to piggyback off what Raj was saying as far as important recruits, Travis Dye, who Brandon should be familiar with, what he was able to do at Ohio State last year. Not to pile on, I apologize. But
it's okay.
I mean, you're looking at a guy who had 1,200-plus yards rushing, throwing him into the mix. That's a nice piece of the puzzle coming. But I do agree. They're going to have to run the table. This schedule looks very, very weak without the exception of Notre Dame. They got to handle their business. And if they handle their business, I guess you look at the way they handle their business will determine. But again, like I said earlier, on paper, this team looks special. But, on paper and on grass is to be determined. But, I mean, they did what they had to do transfer portal wise to put their name in the mix. So
they got to run the table. They
have to go undefeated for them to even sniff the CFP, in my opinion.
Which is not far-fetched, though. I mean, for them, it's not far-fetched for them.
No, at Oregon is the toughest game by far.
Yeah.
I love what they did portal, but hey, why don't they send the transcripts to Brew McCoy to Knoxville so we can get him eligible? But that's just a part.
It's not the transcript you need to worry about, but he is a freak of nature. I've told you before, with him and Cedric Tillman. Speaking of underrated, I know you guys are going to yap about it, but Tennessee is definitely better than like 10 of those teams on the ranked. But that's why it's preseason.
Yeah, for sure.
Ask me about USC. I'll try to keep it short. No, I will.
Okay, let's go on. Let's get through it. Pitt at 16, Miami at 17, Texas at 18. I want to stop after Wake at 19 and Wisconsin at 20.
Time out. You didn't ask me about USC. That's like not asking you about Tennessee, and you're wearing that sweatshirt from 1983.
Oh, again.
What's that?
I said, I thought you already said it. But
oh, no. You just like tuning me out, just like my wife. But no, I mean, the thing about USC is it's odd for me to hear you guys talk about. I know we're doing fairy dust stuff, but there is zero expectation to make the playoff this year for me. And maybe that's because
the
we're
odds
so
in Vegas are all for you guys.
I mean, exactly. And that's why Vegas, like I said, is going to be building new hotels by the dozen next year. They're sensational. Now, don't get me wrong. Their talent they're probably one of the top 3 or 4 most talented teams in the country in terms of their starting 22. But that's not what wins championships. It's Bama with their, third string 5 stars. Another thing, about Notre Dame is they return their entire offensive line. And the reason why I say that is Pete Carroll believed, just like Saban, that everything starts in the trenches. Ohio State's the same way. Michigan last year, you saw what they did in the trenches. You just win games. And SC actually has a pretty good offensive line. Everybody returns. But the depth just isn't there, especially on defense. One injury like they had last year, Brandon Peely, and they're in trouble. But when you look at NFL talent and transfers, like Randall said, Jordan Addison, Biletnikoff winner, Caleb Williams, another NFL guy, Travis Dye set records for touchdowns, Austin Jones, a transfer from Stanford, big back, Raleek Brown, 5-star that was committed to Oklahoma from Mater Dei in Orange County. That is the closest thing to Reggie Bush in terms of jitterbugness is the adjective that I'll use. The receivers are phenomenal, them in Ohio State. Defensively, Shane Lee, who was a stud at Alabama, he got hurt. He filled in for Dylan Moses when he got hurt. Romello Height, Auburn transfer. And yeah, we're just happy to get anyone from the SEC. We're like, yeah, he's going to be an All-American, even though they didn't do much at their schools prior. But no, Corey Foreman, the number 1 recruit in the country, secondary returns almost everyone. So the talent's there, and there's a lot of NFL guys on this list. But will it come together? Now, being said, college football, I think, is the easiest for things to come together. It's not the NFL. It's not basketball. You know, turnarounds can happen in 1 year in college football. But the depth is my biggest concern. And even though you guys don't agree with me when it comes to the schedule, Fresno State's going to be tough. And these guys are reading their press. They're playing Rice first game at Oregon State. It's a bad matchup. You know, Notre Dame, UCLA put 62 on us last year. I know the rest of the country is going to think, yeah, SC is objectively better than everyone but Utah. But, you know, 9 wins, and I'm pretty stoked. Unlike Tennessee fan, I try to be fairly realistic and objective.
Well, since Rod's just we'll get back to that.
Are you on 2 panels?
I was wondering, what are you trying to do, Randall? You're like spinning in circles on the.
Well, somebody
He's getting mad.
You've got to stop sending me private messages. Right now, we're not.
Our fearless leader.
QB1.
Hiding in the dark.
Come on in.
Am I still spinning?
No, you're good now.
All right, I've got to change the layout. I can't see it. This somehow knocked me out completely.
Sorry, I sent one message and it ruins everything.
No, it wasn't. Somebody on the internet sent me a private message that.
Oh, you got
internet.
catfished.
On the interwebs.
On the interweb?
Does anybody see Tom? No.
Is this the World Wide Web?
Oh, y'all shut up.
Hey, Randall, where were you when the internet was invented?
Next to, never mind.
He did invent the internet.
Randall's
the president.
I want to stop. Right?
Man, Al Gore was right there. You could have just copied off of his shoulder. Just be like, oh, where were you? What are you looking at over there?
I was but let's move on. I want to talk about, let's get back to this. Tom, are you with us and just got your camera off? Can everybody else see Tom, or is it just me?
He's probably making a drink. He's a damn alcoholic.
Yeah, we got to get Brandon to mute his thing. He makes a drink.
Actually, there is 2 QB1 screens.
I'm going to have to.
I thought he was going to have to all the cats, dude. He's hurting us right now.
So next topic.
No, he was going down the list, though. The next teams after USC.
Just stay with me. Hold on. Let's see what we got now. We have got the same mess. Tom, can you hear me? I'm going to bring Tom back in.
You're like an airplane controller.
So I want to move ahead here just a little bit. And I'm not going to try to take any more private chats to see if that'll help. I want to move on down the list just a little bit. I want to get down to, we talked about Pitt, Miami, Texas. I want to stop at 19 and 20. And at 19 specifically, I want to talk about Wake Forest, a team that we haven't mentioned much about, but a team that has a very, very winnable schedule. I think I got everybody back now. Wake Forest. I want to talk about them. 19, Wake Forest schedule. Follow me, guys. Tell me when you hear a game they should lose.
All of them. They lost their All-American quarterback.
I got it, but still, look at the schedule. VMI, even without an All-American quarterback, they win. Vanderbilt, they still win. Liberty, they still win. Probably lose to Clemson.
Yep.
Florida State, probably lose. Army, probably win. BC.
Ooh, I don't know. A triple option. Give me Auburn. Army at that game.
Their defense.
Take Army all day.
If their quarterback was healthy, would you go with that? You would go.
No, but I'll take Army in this situation.
BC, Louisville, NC State, North Carolina, Syracuse, and Duke. This was a team that had a schedule where their hardest game was North Carolina State, November the 5th. And now, I mean, still, they play Clemson at home. They play Army at home. Their non-con schedule is a joke. What would a team like that have to do to get in the playoffs? They'd have to go 12-0 and
No. They have zero chance.
Zero. They
Zero.
have to be in the SEC or the Big Ten.
No, Wake Forest could go undefeated and they will not get in the playoff.
Yeah, I know.
That schedule was just, to me, it was just the biggest sin in college football this year.
I think Michigan owns that one.
Such a bummer with Sam
Well,
Hartman.
because look, let's say you upset Clemson somehow. The eye test, Wake Forest will never pass the eye test.
But if they had upset Clemson, they would have probably went into NC State 9-0.
North Carolina gets Notre Dame. They get at Miami if North Carolina wins every game, and then Wake can beat them.
Cincinnati has better recruiting. Cincinnati got in on a rare occasion. Cincinnati has better players every single year than Wake Forest does.
The fourth team is always a crapshoot, it seems like.
All right,
Clemson's schedule's terrible, though. They don't play anybody either.
Wake, though. If the other teams, like we said, can do their job, man, you never know. Clemson has one loss.
I mean, Clemson is their top or hardest team is probably Notre Dame, which is, again, they're in the same boat for me as far as pretender. I mean, who else they play? Georgia Tech, Boston College, NC State, maybe.
They're the essence of why preseason polls are awful, though. They're going to start at number 4, and if they keep winning against this crap schedule, I mean, they're not going to drop that much. And even if they do lose a game, they're not going to fall out of the polls.
I know.
What I'm saying is Wake can beat those teams. They could be the 4th team. It's not going to happen, but
the ACC is trash.
Like Robbie said, even if Wake, unless Clemson, if it's Clemson that goes undefeated, now you're in the conversation. If it's Wake Forest that goes undefeated in that same conference,
that's
no
the
chance.
point I was trying to get to earlier.
Zero chance.
Now let's move ahead one spot to Wisconsin.
It's unfortunate, but it's the truth.
A Wisconsin schedule. It's in the Big Ten. Wisconsin's in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Washington State, New Mexico State, at Ohio State, big time game. Illinois, Northwestern, where Pat Fitzgerald may be on the hot seat for the first
Northwestern might win that game though.
Michigan State, Purdue, Maryland, Iowa, Nebraska, Minnesota. You've got Michigan State and Ohio State.
I could see 3 losses potentially there.
But Tom,
never count out Purdue. I'm telling you, it's probably a night game.
Oh
Purdue.
God,
it's gonna happen.
Is that not that schedule indicative of the talent in the Big Ten? Is it a fluke of the scheduling, or is it?
If you can beat Purdue, then you're good to go.
Well, go ahead, Tom. Go ahead. You go.
Well, they're avoiding Michigan this year, so you look at that. That's whether it's a good look or not, who knows? They've got to go to Columbus to play. There ain't a snowball's chance in Hades that's going to happen. And really, then your other task is at Michigan State, which, that's tough. That's really tough, and it's in between Michigan State's big 3 games between Ohio State and Michigan. So they're going to have their hands full. Don't forget about Iowa. Iowa could, they've got to go to Iowa to play. But, looking at this schedule a little bit more in depth, it's tough. It's tough, and Wisconsin is infamous for starting out of the gate like gangbusters. And then as the season goes, they kind of come down to earth. So if you look at this schedule, October 15th, Aside from, chalk up a loss, they're going to come into that game with one loss. After that, Purdue, like you said,
Hey,
and then you got you got Iowa. So and there's we'll talk about later on the hot seat, Nebraska. So it's tough. That's tough. But I think in the grand scheme of things, putting them at 20 is probably a fair position in the preseason poll. But I think when the season's all said and done, they won't be in the top 25.
They're the epitome of the Big Ten, aside from Michigan and Ohio State. They're going to score. It's baseball scores, strong defense, not very fast, 3 yards cloud of dust. The only team that on paper that is much better than them is Ohio State, but they're exponentially better. Michigan State, Iowa, same style of play. Every year it seems like they do benefit from this, but they don't. I mean, they're an afterthought if you ask me. Aside from great coaches and trenches, especially offensive line that get the most out of the least.
I want to leave 30 minutes for some other subjects, so let's finish it up. Wisconsin is 20, Kentucky 21, Cincinnati 22, Arkansas 23, Ole Miss 24, Houston 25, Tennessee not in it. I did not expect Tennessee to be in it. I know there's some shows making a deal, but you're 7-6. You're 7-6, and your last impression was giving up 52 to Purdue. I'm perfectly okay with Tennessee not being in it.
We were 4-8, and now we're 15th in the country. Tennessee belongs. Trust me.
I think it's a little bit of a punch in the face for Cincinnati right there.
I do too. I agree.
I think top 15 at least. There's several teams that they're better than that you just named. So that's quite a shock to me.
All right, guys, let's finish it up. First off,
can I say one thing real quick?
A lot of production lost.
Last thing, Robbie.
So real quick, sorry. So preseason polls are incredibly stupid.
Mm-hmm.
But this is another way that the SEC is just outsmarting everyone else. All the coaches vote for the other teams to have them ranked in the preseason so they can beat them in the preseason. Ole Miss, Arkansas, Kentucky, they're not top 25 teams, but they're voted in here because SEC coaches vote them in, and because so they can beat top 25 teams. Like, it's just a simple game. It's just mental gymnastics.
It's a corrupt system.
Yes, it is. It is. But the SEC is smarter at this than every other conference.
The irony is overwhelming. By the way, Cincinnati is 92nd in terms of returning production, and that doesn't include the defensive guys they lost, including Sauce Gardner.
Gotta move.
Stop cutting me off, bro.
I'm
helping you.
Let's get a mute button.
Starting to tick me off.
All right, I want to move on. We got 30 minutes to finish 3 subjects. I want to get through them real fast. And Raj, I'm coming to you for the first one because I want everybody to look at these coaches, all first-year coaches in new locations. So if you can jot these down, I want to get one coach that we're going to say is going to exceed expectation and one coach that is going to fail expectations. And any other comments that you've got about this group. Here is the high-profile first-year coaches at a new space. Lincoln Riley, USC. Brian Kelly, LSU. Marcus Freeman, Notre Dame. Mario Cristabol at Billy Napier at Florida. Brent Venables at Oklahoma. And Dan Lanning at Oregon. That is some huge jobs right there. These are some blue blood college jobs. Raj, lead us off. At the top of the list is I had Lincoln Riley. Give me the guy that you would most bet your money on and the one that you would least bet your money on.
Are we talking about this year only?
This year, year one.
Whew. I guess we'd have to look at schedules. I am not a Venables fan. I think Napier's got a lot of work. I'd probably go with Riley just because of their roster. But I think and maybe even Marcus Freeman. Kids love him. He's got a ton of transfers, great talent. Brian Kelly is basically it's an explosion waiting to happen, or implosion. So I'll go with Venables last, and Lincoln Riley just by virtue of the talent on that team.
All right. Tom, go ahead.
Oh, okay. For me, I'm looking at this list. I really like Mario Cristabol. What he did in Oregon, it kind of spoke for itself. Now he's going to his alma mater. I mean, will that make a difference? I don't know how much of a difference that's made here in Michigan, but I just think as a coach, he's going to get his players fired up, and he had a pretty good recruiting class to do so. So I'm looking at Cristabol probably to make maybe the best impact, the best improvement maybe. And then the coach that I think is going to do absolutely nothing, who I feel is the biggest fraud in the country, is Brian Kelly. When he goes from South Bend to Louisiana, and all of a sudden over that flight, he develops that Cajun accent. Go. He's a complete
He's
moron.
a fake fraud.
He's a complete
dude,
fake.
That recruiting video, and he didn't even get that kid.
Right, exactly. Notre Dame fans hated him. I think it's going to take till week 4 or 5 for LSU fans to realize this guy's a joke. So he's definitely the one coach that I see is going to be a big no bueno.
He does win. He's an a-hole, but he wins.
All right.
Yeah.
Brendan Chain of the group. Who is your guy that exceeds expectations, and who's the guy that
I'm gonna say I like Dan Lanning here. I think the defense is really gonna help Oregon in this situation. I know they lost a lot of people, but I'm like quasi rooting for them in the Pac-12 right now, just for that. But if it's not him, I agree with Tom here. I like Cristabol a lot, and I think they're in the easier conference and can definitely make a bigger splash year one. So I would have to say Lanning and Cristabol. Probably Lincoln Riley after that. He's already got the highest firepower, so his expectations I think are a little higher than these other guys. So to make a splash necessarily, I don't think it's going to happen year one. I think it's going to be somewhat standard, maybe the low end of the bar for what they're trying to do. And Brian Kelly is definitely last. I would have to say Freeman, he's a player's guy. He was a linebacker at Ohio State, but it's yet to be determined, and it's Notre Dame, and they get so much hype, and their schedule's not weak, but we'll see week 1 what happens. And I think if they get embarrassed there, it's pretty much downhill for them.
All right, Robbie Davis, we've been all over the board. If you were placing your money on one coach to succeed and one to fail, who are you betting on?
So just for this 1 year, I'm taking Cristabol also. I think he inherits a really good Miami team. That division is weak. That conference is weak. They got some talent. I think Riley long term is going to be really, really great at USC, but I think it's going to take time because what he's going to run into inevitably is Utah's offensive and defensive line, and that will kill any offensive strategy. I'm with these guys. I think Brian Kelly ultimately will be successful, but good God, that division is so hard. Even with the talent you get at LSU, and hey, Saban may win one more and be done, and then the floodgates are open. But I think LSU is the best job in college sports, but currently it's really, really hard to win there. Freeman, I'm sorry. If I'm an 18-year-old kid, why the hell do I want to go to Notre Dame? I just don't get it. I haven't got it in the last 10 years. Like, maybe if you're Catholic, maybe, but like, if I'm playing sports, why do I want to go there? Why? I would much rather, even if going to the Midwest, which I did go to college in the Midwest, I'm going to Michigan or Ohio State. Like, those are the two spots. Like, I would never I guess I did consider Indiana, but I wasn't playing sports. But anyway, you get the point. Vernables at OU, we'll see how that goes. He's got a tough transition to the SEC coming up. And then Lanning at Oregon. Oregon's always been a powerhouse, but so I've rambled on. I pulled a Raj. I talked too long. So, yes, I'm taking Cristabol and then Riley second. And then I'm stopping Raj.
All right, guys, I want to throw something out to you. Everybody's kind of been down on Brian Kelly, but there's a level of talent at LSU that hasn't been necessarily coached the last couple of years. I don't know if Brian Kelly can recruit at LSU, but with that level of talent, shouldn't he be able? I mean, Brian Kelly's got a fully loaded roster. He's got talent at every position. I don't know if long term I'm Brian Kelly, but short term, to me, it looks like he's set up to succeed short term. The one I don't like long term is I worry about Dan Lanning at Oregon. He's a guy that culturally I don't think fits in at Oregon. I just don't know what Oregon's future is either. Dan Lanning has some success. I could see him getting out of there fast. And you could see, or Robbie, I'll come to you, Willie Taggart, Mario Cristabol. Coaches don't seem to like Oregon that well right now.
That was exactly what I was going to say. I was like, for a school with unlimited resources, unlimited facilities, a lot of coaches keep leaving there. And so maybe it's Phil Knight has his thumb too hard pressed on the program, almost like what Texas does to players or coaches. But something's off there, because why would you leave unlimited, especially with NIL coming up? Like, yeah, could you imagine a better NIL situation than Oregon?
Nike,
Texas.
Yeah, not much. It's unlimited. All right, guys, moving fast. We're going to wrap these up, and then we'll get to our normal segments. Coaches on the hot seat. What I'm going to give you is a coach that's on the hot seat, where he's ranked on that hot seat, and then quickly, a couple sentences so we can finish up. Is he too low or is he too high? And I'll give you a little background. And we're going to start at number 20. And, Robbie, this is your home territory around Nashville, but I know you're familiar with the program.
We're doing 20 coaches?
No, it's ranked number 20. Stay with me. Y'all let me format it. I got you. Trust me, I got you.
Right. Can't name
number 20 is Clark Lee. I don't think he's long for the world of bandy, especially after the statement about bandy football is sooner or later going to be a powerhouse. Number 18, which I was shocked by, and let's stop here and have a little discussion. On the hot seat, number 18, Pat Fitzgerald of Northwestern. Does anyone on this panel believe that Pat Fitzgerald is top 20 on the hot seat?
Not even close.
No. He's an icon.
Yeah.
At Northwestern, that would be like University of Michigan alumnus firing Jim Harbaugh. That's never going to happen. Fitzgerald took Northwestern to the Rose Bowl when he played.
96.
So, I mean, he's
there. Odd thing is, number 3, but USC was number 18, and USC was favored, and Keyshawn went nuts.
Yeah.
But you're right. Sorry. He'll never get fired there.
Yeah,
I can promise you he's not on the hot seat. As a PTI #1 fan, Will Bond is on the Northwestern board. He loves Fitzgerald. Like, he's not getting fired at all. Like
109 and 90 at Northwestern.
What's that?
109 wins and 90 losses.
At a school.
I don't even know what list this
that
is.
Requires you to read books. Yeah.
At a school where academics is the most important thing. So that's
it's like Tennessee, but in the Midwest.
It's like Vanderbilt, but they have a beautiful riverfront view there.
The list is provided by the Hot Seat, the College Football Network. And number 11, Tom Allen of Indiana. Again, a horrible year, 2-10 last year. He's got how long to get it changed around? Robbie, I know you're going to say it, so go ahead and say it. People go to the football games now.
Yeah, you said it for him. No, he's not. Like, who's Indiana going to get? Like,
yeah, who wants to go to Indiana?
They went to a bowl game. Like, yeah, no, he's not, again. Maybe this Big Ten money is going to keep flowing in, but without indoor practice facilities, they're not recruiting people. No, I don't believe he's on the hot seat.
Speaking of preseason poll, though, what were they last year? Because their expectations were super high, and the bottom fell out.
They lost their quarterback really early.
Yeah,
and a number of other guys too, but yeah.
All right, top 10. Number 10, Karl Dorrell, Colorado, following Mel Tucker in. 3 years later, Mel Tucker's star is flashing, and Karl Dorrell can't win. Here's my question to you guys as a panel. What is the realistic expectations at Colorado? A superpower in the late 80s, early 90s, but Colorado is a football program without direction right now to me. Raj, would you agree with that statement? What is a good year at Colorado defined?
I mean, he was Pac-12 Coach of the Year in 2020 with a pretty poor, slow roster, and most of those guys transferred out. He's on a cheap contract, 5 years, like 15, 20 million. He got paid like $3 million his first year, and is like a slight bump every year to whatever adds to $4 million a year. The amount of attrition they've had is insane over last year because it is Colorado. Like Salanese and Russian Rashan Salam, they're not coming out of that tunnel. Most people in Boulder only care about one thing, as Robbie has been there as well, can probably attest to, and it's natural beauty. But, Darrell is cheap. He, again, won with a really crappy team. He has a winning record overall, even though he was a total lame duck at UCLA. There'd be no reason to fire him based upon low expectations, as you said.
Anybody else got anything for Karl Dorrell?
Nobody cares.
All right, SEC guys, here we go.
Hey, hold on. I got something for Boulder. So Boulder is beautiful. It's a great college town. It's amazing. The problem they have, though, is most people that come to Boulder are from the East Coast, and they come over there to spend their college years there, skiing and all this kind of stuff. They don't care about sports. They definitely don't care about football. And then they leave, and then there's no support there. Like, the stadium's beautiful. You go there, you walk in, it's downhill. Like, it's a great stadium. The students are right on it. But the point is, no one cares in the community because there's a lot of other stuff to do. It's kind of like what UCLA faces, but on a different scale. But there's no alums that really stay in Boulder. And so it's just hard to drive up passion there. And It's just a weird place. They should be better than they are, but it's not coaching. I mean, how can you recruit to a kid that no one comes to the games, no one does anything? It's just tough.
Let alone
No,
focus there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think right. Well, and I
I
think
was
the
there. It was
expectations
snowing,
there
and girls
are.
were wearing bathing suits, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
I think the expectations are relative as well as the conference fans. I mean, you look at the Big Ten, the SEC, Pac-12. We're a little bit more hardcore on the football side of fandom than some of these other teams, and that's okay. That's just who they are and what they are, and
because we have stuff to do.
He's not on the hot seat.
Yeah. I compare
watch
Colorado.
football and talk about preseason rankings. That's what we have to do.
I can compare Colorado to like Nebraska in the Big Ten. They had their glory days when
and Scott Frost's day is coming.
When Cordell Stewart had the immaculate throw in Ann Arbor.
Brian, but remember that was the premier game on the day after Thanksgiving, Colorado and Nebraska. It was must-see TV, and now they don't play each other, nor does anybody want them to.
Yeah, but Colorado has these sporadic seasons where they come up and they're flashy and they upset some people and they're kind of in the conversation.
And their uniforms are red. I mean, everybody likes.
No, it's cool. It's super cool. But they know their place and their expectations. I mean, they're not ever going to be in the college playoffs. I mean, come on.
At number 4 from Stanford, I think all-time great guy, a person that I think would make a great college football commissioner. But number 4 on the hot seat, David Shaw from Stanford. I mean, it's hard for me to judge at these academic schools like Northwestern, Stanford. If you have some success, and David Shaw has had some success, do you not long leash at these type of schools, Raj?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
That's ridiculous. He's never going to get fired. To put him at number 4 is insane. 93 and something, 45 at Stanford, 3 straight BCS bowls, including a top 3 finish at Stanford. And this is before transfers and whatnot. Like academically, even Notre Dame could circumvent certain things, but this is the hardest school in the country to win at, even if in California or not. He can do whatever he wants. I mean, the guy, again, top 3 finishes. He's beaten so many schools. He's a Harbaugh protege. He's the winningest coach all time at Stanford, passing Pop Warner. I mean, the name itself is pretty much all I know, but in Little League football or whatever. But, I mean, and plus, like you said, he's an honorable, distinguished, great guy.
Good man.
Like, how would you fire him? And again, it's not Ohio State. Like, they're hitting expectations. They built a brand new stadium, a soccer stadium, and they still put 1,300 people in there, but nobody cares. And Shaw is a reason why that, people are still confident in that program. He's got a lifetime pass.
Anybody else got anything on Shaw?
I agree. I think because he's the coach of Stanford, and you look at Fitzgerald, these 2 coaches, in my opinion, are untouchable because they coach at schools that demand academically only the best in the country. So when you're trying to recruit football talent along with academic brains, it's going to take a special kind of coach, and it's going to take a coach that kind of has that knack. And I think Shaw's proven that to be the case. He's the right fit there. And same with Fitzgerald. It's just any other program that maybe academically they don't really have high standards. That could be different. But then again, they might be a little bit more successful based on their coaching ability. But no, I disagree at 4. He's going to be there. And then if you look, when the college football playoffs come into fruition, who's the analyst that they bring in? They bring in David Shaw because he's football IQ is second to none.
Absolutely.
And to Rob's point, he makes $4 million at one of the wealthiest schools in the country.
Yeah.
Huge endowment. Like, they don't care. Why would you?
Honestly, to have one of those two, or to have both of those coaches on that list, like, unless they think, oh, these schools are all of a sudden going to flip the script and hire Urban Meyer, like, those coaches aren't going anywhere.
No.
Like that's it. Like,
You're talking points.
They're not going to do that.
Yeah.
Because they don't care. This football's a subsidy of Stanford. Like they could care less of what their football program does. Yeah, they don't care. This
unproductive
is,
subsidy.
Occasionally they'll get an Andrew Luck that runs through there, and they get a little slash of fame. But other than that, they don't care. These coaches aren't going anywhere. I mean, they're tenured just like the teachers. They're not going anywhere.
At number one, and we'll go ahead. Tom's been dying to talk about him. At number one, from Nebraska, Scott Frost. And guys, let's not forget, Scott Frost 4 years ago, was the darling. Turned down Tennessee. Turned down, I think Florida was open at the same time. Took his name out of Florida. Turned Tennessee down. Went home to Nebraska. Scott Frost, and we'll go around the horn on this one. Tom, will come straight to you, then Chang, then Robbie, and Rod, you finish it up.
I mean, I guess the theme of this segment has been on the hot seat, but not really. Again, here's another guy who's a Nebraska icon from what he did in his college years. I don't believe he's on the hot seat at number one. I guess on this list, we'll say okay, but they're going to give him every chance to succeed, and for the simple fact that he is, he's a legacy player. He just Martinez just hit the transfer portal, so he's going to be working with a new quarterback. So I think his leash is a little bit looser this year. But I mean, for the simple standpoint that he's legendary in Nebraska and he's beloved, and let's face it, Nebraska hasn't been relevant probably since 1997 when Michigan should have been the outright national championship. But we'll save that for another show. But really, it's a school that no one really looks at anymore as a football powerhouse. So Scott Frost is just ho hum in the grand scheme of things. So I don't think he's going anywhere. But on this list, if you're ranking on the list, I probably would agree with him on this list. But he's not going anywhere.
Shane?
So he probably should be the number one ranked on the hot seat. But to Tom's point, Nebraska's gotten soft lately. I mean, within the last decade, they just are they even trying to compete and win anything? Like, I get Scott Frost was the triple option king and, could run it in the A gap. And that was all great. Maybe he'd better serve at Army or Navy. I don't know, but it's not Nebraska because they've been getting their asses kicked for the last decade and it's not working out for them. And he's got to be the number one on the hot seat. But to Tom's point, I don't think they really care. I mean, they haven't really been competitive lately, and I don't think they are really trying to. Maybe it's to save face because he is somewhat of a hierarchy there. But, in a world of what have you done for me lately, they're way behind the ball.
I agree. Robbie Davis.
Well, before I get to Scott Frost, Harrison's the number one coach in the hot seat at Auburn. That's the number one coach in the hot seat because Auburn's bananas. But let me go back to Frost and Nebraska. So much as football has progressed, NCAA and NFL have kind of intertwined. And in the NFL, they have just kind of supplement in our mind. There's 32 jobs. If one's open, you take one. And that's what the NFL does. You take it back to college. Hey, there's 100-something Division I jobs. So if Nebraska fires Frost, no one's just going to go and run and take that job because it's open. Because you're better off being a coordinator, waiting like Vernables, like waiting. And hey, I'm good at Clemson until the job I want comes open. So firing a person just to fire them is not what it is in the NFL. So, but football's become intertwined to think that way, and that's not how, and Tennessee ran into that all the time. We hired Jerry Pruitt, we hired Derek Dooley, we hired Lane Kiffin, we hired people because we were desperate. And so Nebraska, yeah, you're better off giving Scott Frost the Mark Stoops at Kentucky time. Give him 5 years. Let him build it how he builds it. Because if it collapses, like, it can't collapse any further, right? Like you're a mid-major in a big conference. Try to let him build up. But just to keep firing people and hoping people will chase the 1990s, that's not going to happen. There's other jobs available. So it's not the shrunken NFL. It is a much bigger pond. And so there's other jobs to get. You can go to Florida Atlantic, then jump to Ole Miss quicker than you can go to Nebraska. If you fail, then what are you doing? You're a bench coach somewhere. So
yeah, it's a lot more time to be patient to make your mark before you actually jump in head first. You know, I agree.
Raj, bring us home, and then we'll head to Bet Your Nuts.
I mean, I'm just flabbergasted at how wrong you guys are. Nebraska is a top 10 program all time. They generate, we talk about the SEC and how fans are just ridiculously loyal. Nebraska takes the cake. They put 90,000 in spring games, and they've been awful for years. Robbie talks about money and endowment. Ever heard of Warren Buffett, a guy worth like $100 billion who got his BS there? There's so much money in that state, whether it be agricultural or otherwise, and everyone there loves Nebraska, and they're super nice, and they deserve better. As for Frost, yeah, he didn't deserve that Heisman. He was a Stanford transfer who was beat out by Steve Stenstrom. People don't realize is like when he won the Heisman in whatever year, 96, 97, he had like as many rushing yards as passing yards. His ratings were terrible. His completion percentage was like 50%. And yeah, I mean, he was a sensational pick. Nobody had seen a guy like that. I mean, the guy played safety in the NFL. Long story short, at USF or UCF, which one was it? UCF, losing record first year. Then they go 13-0 with a lot of talent. Then he gets a Nebraska job. He was a Michigan man as a parallel, and he just wasn't a great coach, though. I think his time is running out, and it's this year or nothing for him because Nebraska expectations are super high, like ridiculously high.
Who's going to follow him?
What's that?
Who's going to follow him if he gets fired?
You know, maybe necessarily they don't need a, quote, Nebraska guy because not everyone has been. They won a championship with Solich, and I don't think he went to Nebraska. He was underneath Osborne, but they have.
It's got to be another young coordinator, right?
I believe so, but I don't know where he actually went to college, but there's a ton of money and super high expectations, and whether we like it or not, you know, Nebraska is a top 10 team in terms of college football is better when they are good. Tennessee, Michigan, Ohio State, USC, Notre Dame, Alabama, Penn State, others. But, you know, they've been irrelevant, which is killing the people in Nebraska. And their loyalty to Scott Frost, especially after his semi-average Heisman season, I mean, it was fun for a while, it was a novelty, it is waning. Trust me. I don't know who they're
making $5 million a year.
They've got the money to pay him also.
Yeah. So I was I mean, obviously, I was trying to be facetious on the kind of lack thereof effort in Nebraska's corner for hanging on to Scott Frost for so long because he is a legend. Like sometimes you got to cut the fat and, move on. And I think that's been their biggest hiccup because they can recruit. They are a top 10 all-time program. And go ahead, Rob.
They need to.
Why do you think Iowa
offense, but
still has Kurt Ferentz as their head coach?
Oklahoma did
because they can't do better.
Yeah, but Iowa hasn't ever been like Nebraska. And
Army once won 2 championships. Navy did 2. Like
OU ran the triple option with Jamel Holloway before you were born. They changed.
Difference.
Nebraska is a massive program. Massive program.
These kids, man, they don't want to go to Iowa. They don't go to Nebraska.
I mean, no offense, but Tennessee, Knoxville's not exactly the most. It's not Dubai.
Well, Tennessee is not necessarily winning these days either. The same applies to Tennessee. I'm not saying Tennessee is the golden goose.
Nor is Norman, Oklahoma. But Lincoln, Nebraska, same point. It's so insulated that there's so much emphasis that it feels like Disneyland to kids. And they get kids they used to, and they still will. They just need to change.
That's the thing. They need to change. And that's what they're
coach is going to go to Lincoln, Nebraska?
As long as it's not Josh
some new coordinator that's
Josh Heupel
and ready for a job at a big school.
Josh Heupel's not.
Josh Heupel used to play against them. He likes that Midwest area.
All right, let's go.
One last fact, and then we'll move on. I pulled up the 95 roster that was considered largely the greatest team in college football by some of the experts. Tommy Frazier from Florida.
Lawrence Phillips.
Running back Lawrence Phillips from California. 2 offensive linemen, both from Texas. 3 starters that were built from Nebraska's walk-on program. On the defensive side, Missouri, New Jersey, Minnesota, California, Oklahoma, Nebraska, Florida. The thing that's missing is Tom Osborne could go any place and get his guy.
Wait, funny story real quick, and Brandon can probably tell it better than I can.
He's right.
But when we were in middle school football, our football coach went undefeated for like 3 years in a row. He stole Nebraska's training program, and he ran it with us in middle school. And Brandon, you can talk about it more than I can.
That's because 12-year-olds can't throw the football.
Yeah.
Do not bring up middle school as a parallel.
Yeah, I mean that's true. Coach Montoy, I mean, for sure. It was triple option. But yeah, it was an easy system in middle school because, like Rush said, most middle school kids can't throw the football, and most middle school defenders can't defend a pass.
And back in those days, most college kids can throw the football. That's why you ran a triple option.
Not different offense. They couldn't defend the run. Let alone
the West Coast offense hadn't
that could
made it to Middle Tennessee yet. So that was
and no one could defend Tommy Frazier.
Yeah, the triple option. That's what we're saying.
That was
we're talking.
I know I saw Nebraska 97 up close and personal. I saw them destroy Tennessee in 97. And I know Tom said Michigan should have got the national championship. But all I'm left with, I don't think we ever tackled anyone the whole night. And Peyton Manning was beat to a pulp by the end of the night. So
team speed is team speed. You're right.
I'd love to see Nebraska back. I think the Big Ten.
I would too.
Have Nebraska back. All right, guys, this was a great show. We went long. It's our football kickoff. Let's get to they're closing it up. I want Tom to pick this winning NASCAR team, of course. But it's time for Bet Your Nuts. And I'll go first. Last week I rode my pony one step too far with taking Kyle Wright at New York. I think it was 7-1 in the third inning. Kyle Wright, for the first time since early in the season, got rocked. Horrible. But I'm going back to baseball, and it's kind of a crazy game. I'm taking tomorrow at 6:10. I am playing the run line. the run line, -1.5, the Houston Astros over the Texas Rangers. Just an insane pitching matchup. The Rangers are running bullpen specialists out there. The money can't even bet. It's -305. So go ahead and give up that run, 1.5 runs, and taking the Houston Astros, who don't look, but they're playing well right now. Very well. Raj Meta, what have you got on the Bet Your Nuts tonight?
Oh, I was looking. I was going to go college football just because the Dodgers right now are just unfair. Side note, it doesn't matter because it's August, and I'd rather them do this in October like the Braves did. So congrats on winning 12 in a row. Doesn't mean anything. I was looking for the Utah line against Florida, and if it's only 2.
2.5, I think.
Yeah, I'll take
I
it.
saw that.
I got 2.5.
I'll take Utah all day, not only
All
because
day.
of talent, experience, but also like Whittingham against a brand new coach in Napier. I know he's kind of a darling, but I think Utah smokes them at
Those two.
Swamp.
At least by 10.
Mm-hmm.
I would go with double figures as well.
I would too, but
That'll
that's a
change.
conservative number.
That line's going to change.
Yeah, that'll
Jump
move.
on it now.
It's actually in my mover section as we speak. All right, Brandon Jane, what have you got? And then I'm going to let the 2 NASCAR guys fight it out.
We're going to go to one of the hardest things to gamble on, but football is back, boys, and we're going to the NFL preseason.
Woo, good God.
I've got 2 for you.
Titans.
Of course, Titans are 1, and this is just a bias in me. This one is probably the lesser of the 2. Would be the under 31.5. Titans at Ravens. Ravens are favored 3.5. I like the under here. I don't see a lot of production from the Titans on the offensive side, so I think they won't score very much. So that's why I come to that conclusion. And then my second, probably my favorite one, would be the Falcons versus the Detroit Lions, under 35.5. I like that line as well. I think this is going to be a pillow fight between 2 teams. Maybe see 27 tops. I don't see it getting to 35. So
I don't know if the Falcons could score.
that's what I'm saying. So
All right, Tom, what have you got going for this week? Great job in your first ever NASCAR pick.
That was awesome.
I wouldn't go as far as to say I'm a NASCAR guy. I think I may have got lucky. Harvick definitely had good history in Michigan, so he got the win, and as did I. So I'm going to stay in that lane, looking at a driver who only made it to the 25th lap at MIS. Who Caesars has him at a plus 700, who might be one of the most hated drivers on the NASCAR circuit. So I'm going Kyle Busch to win Sunday at plus 700. I think he's going to be hungry. Finished 36th last week. He's going to want to come out strong after being knocked out early on. So I like Kyle Busch plus 700.
Time out real quick. How does
most
NASCAR
hated.
betting work? Plus 700. What does that mean?
7-1.
You
Like
bet.
to win?
100, you win
Yeah.
700.
To place
Yeah.
or show like horses?
Not to win.
Yeah.
But you can do top 3.
All plus and minus money work the same in any betting. It's plus or minus whatever.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
All right, Robbie Davis. Rough week.
So I want to congratulate Tom on a great pick. He was texting me earlier in the day, and I was like, Harvick's got no chance. This is a shortened race. He better hope for a rain delay. I was wrong. He was right. It was a great race, though. Man, look, so I started off hating these new generation cars. I'm starting to love them now, though. It's been exciting. So there's 14 winners so far. There's 3 races left, 2 playoff spots left and then winners get bumped. Truex Jr. won this last year. He's 6-1. I'm going to take Truex Jr. this weekend to repeat. He knows this course. New car, but I like this course. I think it's going to be a fantastic race. And, boys, I'm not kidding. I've already told my wife. I've got Thursday night football, Saturday night college, Sunday night football, Monday night football. Tuesday is going to be race replay on my DVR. Then we have Friday and Wednesday, and then it's Thursday night, and then we start all over again. So she's got
of a race
Friday and Wednesday. That's her days of the week for me. It's a foreseeable future.
Rad.
Wow, that's a lot. So, final word.
She's happy about that. She's like, well, just take them all.
I don't figure her feelings was hurt. First off,
Grissom just got his first stolen base too.
I want to wrap it up. I'm looking like I've been on a 4-day vendor. Been up since 4:30 to get my daughter to school.
You
so
always look like that.
First on the final words, and it's personal. For 31 years, I broadcast high school football, and had a conversation with someone today about why I've done that. In 31 years, I have spent more money on gas than I have made off our broadcasting high school football. Every time I eat 2 hot dogs and have a Coke, I probably spend more money than I made that night. But I do it out of love, and I do it for the kids. And I'm going to tell you, those kids are special to me. They may play at some high school 50 miles out in the woods with 400 kids, but when they step on the field on Friday night, I want them to feel like they're playing in the NFL. And when I call their game, I want to call it just as professional as any TV announcer you hear. I want their uniforms to be nice. I want them to wear the best Nike uniforms or the best shut helmets. I want the band to play loud. I want the parents to scream loud because it's special. I think about Kenny Chesney's Boy Is the Summer, and I play it every year in the booth right before we go live, and it's just kind of our get into high school football, what we're going to be doing, and what it means to these kids. I love high school sports. It's the last non-money version of football that you can ever see. Because once they hit college, it's all about the money. Don't lie to yourself.
Yeah, used to not be.
It used not to be, but it is. When a kid lines up on Friday night and he's got Grundy, Whitwell, Bledsoe, Ray County, South Pittsburgh across his chest, he played for something that means the world to him. I challenge you to do 2 things. Write a check to your local school, because we complain about buses. We complain about money. I got contacted by a local coach about a week ago. His charter to take his football team to games has went from $1,500 to $4,000. So this coach now, out of his football budget, 5 times after a year, has to pay $4,000 to get 2 bucks. A new helmet is $275. We want our kids out playing in substandard equipment. A new jersey is $100. High school football is expensive, but it makes men out of boys, and I believe that 100%. And I'm sorry to rant.
No, Randall, this is a good opportunity. Get the players to watch. Get the parents to donate $500. I'll match $500, or $1,000. I'll match $1,000.
That's perfect, Roddy. We'll do something. We're gonna have games.
If that's okay. If that's okay under TEJAS rules. If not, then get 500 people to watch, and I'll donate $500.
What's the closest bus ride for these county schools? It's quite far, isn't it? Obviously, it costs a lot.
Game. We played one game where we have a 4-hour drive to get there.
Yeah, don't get them suspended, but I'll donate just whatever. We
I'll
see
have-
people watch. Everyone that watches, I'll donate something to that effect.
Robbie, that's very generous, and I'll contact the AD and the TSSA in the morning and make sure it's all right. We'll do it through the show. I'll also add a little money to it. But please support the high schools.
Yeah.
It makes men of these kids. I'm sorry, Brent, so long, but we'll go to who wants to go next? Below me, Brent and Jane, a high school football player. We saw Brandon tackle Chris at a draft one year. Brandon still has his form that he had in high school.
He planted him. He didn't tackle.
He
Well, we won't go there. Final words. A lot of stuff going on. You could go either way, and that was very heartfelt, Randall, especially for the local kids. And I'm with you, Robbie. Let's see what we can do here, and as a show and collectively, let's try and make a donation and do something there. So, aside from that, I'm going to go back to my Bet Your Nuts. Football is back. I'm so excited. Even though it's preseason, it's like, it's like wrapping presents because, Christmas is right around the corner. So, I mean, I'm so excited.
Football. I've never heard of that.
Well, I'm betting on MLB, which I don't watch. So, at least I'll watch preseason football. So, I'm excited, man. And, I'm excited to see Malik Willis coming up tomorrow night. So, see what this kid's got and where we're at. So, yeah, final words. Not as heartfelt as yours, but let's go.
every now and then. Raj Mehta from the West Coast joining us early tonight.
It is early. No, to Randall's point, there is a lot of money in high school football at certain programs. Montverde, IMG, even a public school in Southern California, Los Alamitos, Malachi Nelson, a kid that's right up there with all these transfers suddenly come into a public school. So it's nice to hear about kids and families and broadcasters and anyone that follows the game for the game. And that seems very rare, especially where I come from. So there's definitely beauty in that. As for anything else, I'm just excited about baseball. But this is played against Sam for the Dodgers. They've had a best record, best team for so many years right now. But right now doesn't matter. They've won the NL West 8 out of the last 9 years. And the 1 year they didn't was last year, and they won 106 games. The Giants beat them, and then the Dodgers took 2 out of 3, or rather 3 out of 5 in the playoffs. The point being is that it's just going to get good. And their teams like the Braves and the Mets and the Dodgers, not so much the Central, but those 3 teams, to me, don't read the San Diego hype. They're going to be just juggernauts. And I think they're better than every AL team as well. So the National League playoffs this year are going to be just out of control. And I hope whoever comes out on top has enough to beat whatever team comes out of the American League. Screw Houston.
I got impressed by the Mets last weekend. They really take 3 out of 4 from the Braves. They really showed me something that they are for real.
Yeah, they're legit.
They got DeGrom back. A lot of emphasis and oomph behind that. The Braves didn't have much to kind of go for there. And I still think the Braves are the better overall team. I really do.
We'll see. We'll definitely got some youngsters up from the greater Michigan, Detroit area, joining us for a 2-hour marathon tonight. I hope we didn't wear you out, buddy.
No, not at all. Well, my last word is really a word, and it's a word that has been really hard to see in sports lately, and we saw it shine yesterday and that word sportsmanship. What I witnessed, which I'm sure everyone else saw it on the internet, the kid from Oklahoma that was during the Little League regionals baseball gets hit in the head with a pitch, and it looked really bad. He gets up, trots down the first base, and he notices that the pitcher from East Texas is really shook up about the situation. He's kind of burying his head in his glove, and he feels really bad about what he just did. And the kid, his name is Isaiah Jarvis, shortstop for Oklahoma. He threw his helmet down, and he walked right up to this kid, and he gave him a big hug. To say there was a little tear in the eye, just to see that something from a 12-year-old kid, he could do something like that, unbelievable. And it was something that I immediately said to my wife, this thing's going to go viral, and it's going to go viral fast. Consoled the kid. It was a lesson that I think a lot of people could learn from, not only just kids, but adults alike, that, man, when someone's down, all it takes is a simple hug or just a simple word that will change kind of the path they're on. And for this kid, he would just said, hey, man, you're doing great. I'm okay. Keep it up. And, their lives will forever be changed because of it. And I just think it was one of the coolest things I've ever witnessed as a sports fan. And to have it happen with a 12-year-old kid on ESPN, he was on CNN by the end of the day. It was awesome. And I think, as a society, we could all learn from that one particular incident.
You'd think it'd be the other way around, like the pitcher going up to comfort the kid that got hit, but it was just the opposite.
Yep.
Young kid who got drilled in the head saw that the pitcher was really emotional about that. He had no intent, obviously, and he went up and gave him a hug, and continued to console the kid who was obviously very jarred by that. It was one of the more amazing things I've ever seen in sport. There's no doubt.
Awesome.
Well
awesome.
said.
That was a good one too. That was very well. All right, we're gonna finish up with the COVID cough up there in the corner that just coughed up a lung. Hope he's okay. Robbie, are you going to be all right for draft in 10 days, or are we going to have to put you on the iron lung?
Oh, I'll be there. I
Like it
guarantee
matters.
that. So this weekend or this week or this last 5 or so days, a true legend retired in Serena Williams, and she literally changed women's sports and changed how you think about women and athletes and their status in society. And as someone who went to school with Candace Parker, I don't know her, but we were in school together. We had classes together. I would love to do just a segment on women's sports and how they kind of interact into what men's sports are now. And Serena, obviously one of the greatest women's tennis players of all time, if not the greatest. I'm not sure if it's debatable anymore, but one of the greatest tennis players of all time, regardless of sex. And so we're going to say goodbye to her at the U.S. Open. And for tennis fans or non-tennis fans, it doesn't really matter. That's a end of an era that's may never, ever be matched again. And so, anytime you say goodbye to a great, I think everyone should take pause and just think about how great she was, and where her standing in sports history will be.
Agreed.
That's a great point, because I don't think there's no argument that the GOAT factor is there. I think it's
well, and I think you take sex out of that completely. I mean, just one of the greatest tennis players of all time, for sure.
Because Kyle Wright gets his 14th victory, and I think of nothing better than send us to the house as the Braves beat the Red Sox 8-4. And my Kyle Wright collection, Annalee, it can go to college if it keeps going. If Robbie can start winning some races, Kyle Wright can win some baseball games. Michael Harris can hit.
Hell, bet on Tom's race.
Listen to Tom. I mean, give me a break.
Yeah,
She's not going to go to college if you keep betting on Rob.
We are.
It's because it was in Michigan, and it's Tom knows
He must
Michigan,
have some inside knowledge.
She'll get a scholarship.
Yeah, I got this.
But still.
We are reckless.
Tom, how great is NASCAR?
Well, I mean, it's
Answer.
it's
Done.
growing on me. It's
Hey.
growing on me.
Checkmate.
You were
I'm not-
bored,
I'm
and
not
it was
making
in
it
Wait,
Michigan.
stop,
That
wait,
was
stop
the
bring my
only
RV
reason.
up to Michigan.
He doesn't even
Yeah,
like
you
it,
need to.
and he's better than you at picking it.
That is very true.
We are reckless speculation. We will watch sports we don't even like. We have all meals in parking lots. We will show up at your house with a six-pack because your TV's got better reception than our TV. We are sports fans, and we love sports. And until next week, we're out.
Hard Knocks, Detroit.